Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I am your host, Christian Williams, and I am joined, as always, by Randy Hall. Randy, how are you this evening? It is the same evening as the other evening.
I was going to say the same evening. Yeah, we are recording this episode the same night as the Monday episode, going out Wednesday, obviously, but yeah, so that's why same clothes, same hats, all the same stuff.
Glasses, just rocking them. Yeah.
Glasses, rocking them. But yeah, still good. Still have enough energy for this one, thankfully. So let's get it. This is going to be some arguments.
Yes. So this is our last.
But
well, yeah, we'll argue a little bit, but you know, we normally when we argue, we come to an agreement that we're both wrong. We're both right, and that's just kind of where it ends. But we'll give some good points on either side. This is our last positional breakdown before the NFL draft, which is exciting. Again, if you didn't catch the Monday night episode, we will be doing a Friday fix. We will return on Monday and Wednesday for the Mega Mock Draft, which we do every year. It's kind of a 3-round type of deal. I don't recall who is all going to be on there, but we will figure that out.
I believe it's obviously us two, and then it's penciled in to be Sean and Adam.
Okay.
So
sounds
coming
good.
on, I believe Sweet is too busy with his job to do anything. I don't know if it's going to be just Monday or if we're going to do it all Monday, but it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday. We'll figure that out by the time you guys listen, but yeah, we'll for sure be there Monday, at least doing the first round.
Yes, for sure. And then that will be the last couple of episodes or episode before the NFL draft. We will have a live stream during the NFL draft, I believe. We will be joined by Kevin at some point. Jeff, I believe. So last year, Kevin and Jeff kind of joined us at times. Brandon Sweet joined us. Adam joined us. We'll probably have the same thing going night one of the NFL draft, but details are still TBD, but we will have some nice coverage, talk about the prospects as they're drafted, kind of some of the team fits and whatnot. But our live stream is the place to be on that Thursday night. We're better than Kuiper, so sorry.
And we don't have to talk about every player's most depressing part of their life.
Exactly. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump into
it's painful. I hate it.
It's the worst. I don't know why they do that. Let's jump into defensive backs. So as we said on Monday, this will be a combined corners and safeties episode. So we're kind of going to speed through it for what it's worth, and we are going to get started. We'll go 5-1 like we used to, so that we can start the arguments fairly early and get to them, quickly. So Randy, who is your cornerback 5?
Yeah, my 5 is your 6, Roger Mccreary. I think this is a very talented cornerback class, and he sticks out to me slightly ahead of Kyler Gordon, and I think maybe just production was probably the thing that put it over the top, but he is a very, very talented corner from Auburn, so he's definitely the best secondary player from Auburn this year. I was almost going to give Smoke a little bit too much of a shout out there, but Mccreary is honestly, he would be higher for, I think, me and Christian, but he did not test well as an athlete. He has a 5.45 RAS that just kind of tanked his stock a bit and kind of plummeted him to the second round for sure. So obviously saying he's a second round pick for me, but he is good in man coverage, a little better in man coverage than zone coverage for me personally. Shows above average instincts, shows decent physicality that you see in the man coverage. Shows some of the best ball skills of the class, in my opinion, as well.
Yes.
has production to show it, but also just makes a lot of physical plays at the catch point. Plays good press. So again, right back to the man coverage stuff. And then technique wise, he is again one of the better corners of the class. At least consistent technique wise, I have him as 8.5, and he's a willing tackler, which is big for nowadays in the NFL. I have him as tied with best tackler of the cornerback class. Um, just very easily, just under 76 for me, so very easily a second round pick. And he's going to make some team very happy when they probably reach for him in the back of the first.
You think so? You think he'll go in the first?
The corners are weird in this class because I think it's pretty apparent that Stingley and Sauce are viewed as gone in the top 15, if not sooner, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then past then, obviously some of us love what we're going to get into with your number one and my three, but some of us love him. Some of us love McDuffie. People love Mccreary and people love Gordon. Kyrie Elam's been a first round pick in a lot of mocks. So it's very apparent that once you get past the top two, or at least the top, for most people, you're kind of guessing where they fall. And there's a good chance we get maybe 4 or 5 corners in the first round, and someone's going to have to be reached for. I only have 3 first round corners, so someone's going to be reached for.
Yeah. For what it's worth, 20 through 50, every team's board is different. And so you're right. We could see Roger McCreary in the first. Where I do struggle with McCreary, and actually, didn't Noah Igbenogany also go to Auburn? That sucks.
I think so.
I think so too. Damn it. So I think McCreary's probably best as a slot corner. I think that his length is kind of going to be an issue. I didn't think that for Asante Samuel Jr. last year, but I thought technically he was more sound. He was able to mirror receivers very, very well. I think that's where McCreary, he's good. He's just not to the level that I'm not concerned about his arm length, because I believe his arm length is like second percentile, something just wild, just very short arms.
It's something bad, and we found that out at the Senior Bowl, and then he dominated the Senior Bowl.
This is true. And that's why, he's still my 6. He still has a second round grade. It's just, if I'm projecting him to the next level, I think I'm more comfortable tossing him in a slot role because I think he can thrive there. I think you can see some of those tackling skills from the slot a little better. I think back to how the Rams used Jalen Ramsey at times because they wanted him closer to the line of scrimmage. I think Roger McCreary is not Jalen Ramsey. Let me clarify. But I think if you have a good tackling corner that's also just really good, and the slot receiver matters in the NFL. There aren't that many good slot corners. I think he is one, and I think that will actually push him back up boards.
Yeah, I think his tackling will make it so he's never going to leave the field for a team, and that's why he's going to be playing inside outside. I think Asante Samuel's a good, ideal wise, because we both had, I believe, second round grades at him last year. He went very early. He played relatively well. He played kind of predominantly outside as well, with their second corner not playing as well. And I'm not sure where they're going to have him this year necessarily. I think it depends on what they draft and what they bring in there for the Chargers. I see the same kind of thing with Roger McCreary, where he's always on the field because of that tackling ability. You can't get that off the field because you need your outside be able to break out plays and tackle. Whether that is he's better in the slot because he can cover better there, as well as he doesn't have to play as much zone, which is where he struggles at times. But he is also closer to the line of scrimmage, like the interior of the line of scrimmage and the ball, so he can make better reads and get better plays from that angle.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's jump over to my 5, which is your 6, and that is Kyler Gordon, the second Washington corner on both of our boards.
Washington, hey, they breed them, bro. They're up there with the better corners coming out.
They're probably if CBU rankings were a thing, they'd probably be 2 or 3. Because I do think that they produce quite well. But Kyler Gordon, uber athlete, over a 9 RAS, which is really good. Kind of undersized, 5'11", 194 is what I believe he is. not ideal, especially because I think that he is an outside corner. He's got the arm length for it. I think he's good enough in press coverage that I feel comfortable slotting him on the outside. Some really good ball skills, and you don't see them all the time because he and McDuffie really didn't get thrown at. McDuffie got thrown at a little bit more, actually, but good in zone coverage. I think he's pretty instinctual. Man coverage, I think that at times he can be a step behind. Those ball skills kind of make up for that, but at the NFL level, I think that's where I would be a little concerned is are they fully translatable? Maybe not, but what do you think of Kyler?
So I think specifically right there is where I wanted to jump in. I have him as 8 for both coverages, man and zone. I think he's better in zone necessarily, but the type of athlete he is, he's very, very dynamic and fluid with his just quickness and agility at the outside position. So I think he can clearly play man, and where he does struggle and where he is, it's off target or it's late or he's off. His where he excels in the zone with his click and close is what helps him in man coverage, and we've seen that recently with other corners coming out. And we've talked about it at length with them as well, to where maybe he does have some deficiencies in man, but the click and close ability makes up for them, and just a little bit better technique and coaching at the next level. Those deficiencies go away, hopefully. But he's very, very talented. He is so close to being my 5 as well. So I think these two being flop for us is probably ideal for listeners because we get to talk about both. They're very, very talented individuals, and they will excel at the next level. I think they're both, in my opinion, though, in the same realm where the tackling and everything puts them as inside-outside guys and maybe more inside because they can be effective from that position more than most people. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as tackler as Mccreary, but he's still a good tackler. Like, he's above average. He just he needs to get better. So, like, he's efficient and he's an aggressive defender, but the physical aspect is what he gets destroyed in with it, and that's where,
Well, I think it stems from bad technique, which is interesting because his teammate has fantastic technique, and you would think that you would learn from him. But
but those are his deficiencies. But I do think there's a little bit inside-outside for him to where he can excel.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who's your 4? Let's just roll right into it.
Yeah, I think it's not both of ours. It's Trent McDuffie is a 4 for me, second-round grade. Also, obviously, we kind of just went over it. Another quarterback for Washington, except he's a junior. Another freak athlete, 9.49 RAS. We kind of alluded to it right there. He's a technician. I have him as the second best technique of the class. I think that's rightfully so. We'll get into that guy first. Yeah. I think it should be close, but I've seen other stuff from the other guy that I haven't seen from anyone else, so we're going to get into that later. But he is a technician, and he's a really good tackler. So that's where we're going to, again, where he's going to excel at the next level, where he's never coming off the field. He's very, very aggressive in the run defense, and I think he's an excellent one at that. I think he can play inside-outside. I think he fits any scheme. I think he's a starting outside corner, but I think he can play inside-outside. I really like what I see from him pretty much everywhere in the field. I think he is better in zone than man. I think that just works both for this Washington scheme. And I think we've seen that through years as well, to where they're better zone corners, but they are really good in man. I think the same rings true for him. He is more physical than I think Kyler Gordon and even Mccreary, in my opinion. He's among one of the better ones. Shows really good instincts. Doesn't have the ball skills of Gordon or Mccreary that we've already gone over, or really the rest of the top of the class. He's deficient, unfortunately, there. And I think where he lacks in man coverage mostly is the press coverage, where I do have him as one of the worst ones of this top group. So those are where he needs to continue to get better at. Really, it's length and size concerns for Trent McDuffie. So he's going to be a little bit lower on most people's boards. And honestly, that's what puts him not being a first-round pick for me, is those two deficiencies.
And I get that. I get that. So I knocked him twice. I said undersized and lacks length, and
him,
the
'cause it's for him. It's more important. It's more like detrimental than most people. I think like
right.
it's literally his deficiencies.
Yes.
If
So
it's if he could somehow get stronger and bigger, he can't get more lengthy. But if he can get stronger and bigger, he gets even better. Plain and simple.
yeah, we talk about prospects checking boxes, right? That's the one box he cannot check, which is it's a problem. But if you get him in a cover 3, cover 6 heavy scheme, you're gonna see like arguably a Pro Bowl, probably not an All Pro. I have a first round grade on McDuffie. He's my 3. So I think we could see some Pro Bowl seasons out of him. I think he's that instinctual, and I think he makes up for those deficiencies with his play. So
that's fair.
yeah. But
I
I get
think
it. I know I'm
he goes
concerned.
in the first, in my opinion. I do
Yeah,
have him as a second rounder, but it's like just under about
yeah.
a point and a half behind.
Yeah,
And
if you toss a premium on the position, which teams will, that's where
it's one of it. I mean, it pretty much goes like, what is it? Quarterback, edge, left tackle, cornerback, receiver. Like it's usually how the tier goes. So,
yeah,
I think there's no way that 4 don't go in the first round. So, for me, he's a first round player because of that.
and I think probably 5 or 6, if I'm guessing off the top of my head now. All right, let's just do it.
Especially with a class that might not have more than like 2 or 3 quarterbacks going in the first. Positions like this are going to fly out the board.
Yeah. All right, let's get into my 4. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. So my 4 is your 1, correct? You have him as your 1. Sauce Gardner, Ahmad Gardner, the cornerback from Cincinnati that is being talked about as a top 5 pick, let alone a top 10, and let alone not a first-round grade from me. Please don't cancel me. No, actually, just kidding. He just sneaks into the first now, doesn't he?
What is his grade for you?
78. Yep, he did
first
it.
Rounder.
He did it. I don't know.
He did it.
I don't know what. Oh, I did give him a bump for his length because I didn't do that before, and I felt like I needed to do that because that was irresponsible of me. So 6'3", 190, thin little dude, but very tall, very lengthy, and those are his plus traits. Good athlete, really fast, kind of check that box, but we don't have an official RAS for him, correct? We never got one of those.
I don't believe so, no.
Because I think what I did is I kind of guessed based on the scores that we did get. So let me just talk about my concerns with him. And we disagree on what he's good at. So this is interesting because we don't normally do this. So I have him as an 8.5 in man coverage and a 7 in zone coverage. I think in zone coverage, he can get a little lost. He can get a little lazy. He can just kind of drift out of plays. I don't know if that is his version of taking plays off because the other reps are in press man and he is probably tired. And maybe I'm wrongfully knocking him for that, but I don't think he is as good in zone as everyone else thinks he is. He's got good click and close, so I don't get concerned about that. I do worry about his instincts and kind of his football intelligence when he is out in zone. The man coverage thing, I have an 8.5. I think if he weren't so freaking handsy, I would have him in a 9 or 9.5 because where he struggles and where I think that he is going to get penalized heavily, especially in his rookie year, he does not know when to release. He will jam receivers. He will use his length. That is great. He will do that 20 yards down the field, and it is problematic. I see it as more of a problem, I think, than you and most other people, which is interesting because I like J.C. Horn last year, and I think he did some of that, just to a lesser extent, in my opinion. Super physical, pretty good ball skills, best press corner in this class, I would say, or tied for best press corner with a guy we'll talk about here in a second. And then I have him as a bad tackler. So, and that's where people are yelling at me too.
So he's improving as a tackler.
That's fair.
From what everyone has seen and what I've seen from 2020 to 2021, he's improved, but I still have him as a 6.5 tackling, so works at this top group. So agreed there.
Okay.
Pretty much, mean, we agree on press. I think we agree on technique and ball skills, physicality. I think he's top of the class. I think we both agree there.
Yes,
Good instincts. We just disagree on coverages, which is strange.
it is strange. We don't
So
normally do this.
I was wrong. I was looking at the wrong thing. So I don't have one better than the other. I actually have both as 8s.
Okay,
So I was wrong. Sorry beforehand when we were talking about that.
it's
Um,
okay.
but he is very, very good in man. But the grabbing is an issue. I think without the grabbing, which I kind of have knocked twice basically because it's so bad. Because I
Yeah,
do have a minus half a point, and then I have it as 8 instead of 8.5 because of this. I think he projects to be a better zone corner because he is so good at the click and close that we talked about it already with Mccreary, to where like some of the deficiencies there. Uh, well, we've talked about it multiple times, but where they struggle sometimes in man coverage, they figure it out because of the click and close, to where they let it go sometimes. And let's be just plain and simple. Gardner didn't give up shit, and people knew that, so they didn't throw it to him. So a lot of the times, if you did see some, like maybe he looks lazy or whatever, or he's gambling too much, it's because he's bored. They're not throwing the ball because they know they can't. Um, I mean, it's rare to get that kind of attention now as a corner, especially in college, and especially with who he had on the other side. So
yeah,
he was just
that's true.
absolutely dominant. I think he will be drawing penalties, so that's why I have it lower. But I think he can thrive in zone coverage. He plays pretty much from a half turn a lot of the times, where he can just continue to read the quarterback and the throwing lanes, layers coverage well, squeezes routes really well, and makes tight windows up the only way you can throw into there. And I think that's why I brought this up to you. I think a lot of people have some of his zone route like reps, man reps, because he just presses and just tightens the zone so much that it looks like it's man at times, but it was zone coverage. He just squeezed the route to death because he knew there's nothing else coming because he read the play. But his length and is just so good. I don't think he's got the best ball skills, but like his size and length and the speed and read and react, he just absolutely can kill it in the zone coverage, in my opinion. And obviously, there's skills like that make the man coverage really good. But yeah, uh, he's he's like an aggressive tackler. I want to say, or at least aggressive in the run defending, but he's just not that good at it yet. So I think that's where his deficiency is and where he's going to need to get better. Yeah, he's my 1. He's your 4. I have him as a 78.5. So I think that, just saying, you have him as a
Oh,
78.
okay. So you're just kind of lower on the other guys, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. That makes me feel a little better. And I do, like I said, I gave him that plus. He is a first round player. I thought I still had him as a second, which is what kind of got me yelled at.
Yeah, I think it's arguably that you could put like a half plus for the length. I think you're not wrong in doing that, but I just haven't done that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We need to kind of zip through the rest. So who is your 3 is where we're at.
Okay, 3 for me is your 1. So we're gonna knock out 2 birds, 1 stone here.
Yes.
Andrew Booth, a junior. I don't say that enough. But Andrew Booth Jr. I have is exactly a 78. So the score you have for Mod Gardner, junior from Clemson. Honestly, just a phenomenal prospect. The guy does not get the credit he deserves in this class. Um, he does have an injury, and I don't believe we have any actual RAS because of that. He had an injury late in the year, so we don't have any testing numbers. So just want that off the board quick. I don't have him knacked heavy for that. I have it as like an injury history thing, but it's not a heavy knack, like negative against it. I think he is a sticky man coverage corner, loose hips, quick feet, all the things you want, anticipation skills, stems, reads the stems really well. I just don't have it as like I don't think he can mirror like every play, and when you can't do that, in my opinion. Like, I think he has the physical traits to be a shutdown coverage corner, but he just needs to get a little bit better technique wise to be able to do that. So I think he's on the path to that, but at this current level, I don't have him there. And I think he does well in zone coverage, at least staying leverage wise and having eyes on the throwing lanes and in the backfield. But he doesn't do well adjusting on the fly in zone currently. And I have it almost a 7.5 in zone, so it's not like he's deficient in any way, but it's just a little bit lower. So I think he needs to get a little bit better in that aspect to where when plays break down and stuff like that, he struggles in zone. And when there's like double moves or two kind of routes in the same area, I think he struggles at times there. But he does show good instincts. He's a very physical corner and man coverage, so good stuff there. Not as good ball skills as Sauce or Stingley. A little bit better than McDuffie for me. Good in press, good technique overall. One of the better tacklers. That's his big advantage, in my opinion. I think I have him tied with Trent McDuffie and Mccreary for tackling. That was the top of the class, so that's where his plus is. And he wasn't ultra productive in college, so just below.
Yeah.
But first rounder, in my opinion, I don't see. I've seen a lot of mocks where he doesn't go to the first, and I think that's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah. So he's my CB1, and actually I agree with almost everything you said. So,
Damn it.
so I think he's the Creed Humphrey of corners in this class. Meaning,
God damn.
so you remember when we evaluated Creed, and it was
Yeah.
he was good in this year, bad the next year, and then it flipped. And so we kind of saw a full player, but over the course of 2 seasons. I feel like that's Andrew Booth here. So I think he was really good in press man and really bad in zone coverage his 2020 season, which, to be fair, sample size a little smaller. Clemson got a lot of games in that year, though.
Yeah, I would have had it probably like 8.5 and 7 for that. So yeah, exactly. I think it kind of flipped, and that's where I have it as like 8 and 7.5 now.
Right, which makes sense. And I have him 8 and 8. Instinctually incredible. Just one of the best click and closes I've ever scouted. Yeah. Oh, that's rich. Maybe not.
I won't go there, but it's a really good click and close. No question.
Yeah. So, and I have a 9 on instincts, which I incorporate that into that. And then, like you said, tackling. Just I can say this: one of the best tackling corners I've seen in a long time. Just very, very efficient there. I love this kid.
I think of like Denzel Ward in the NFL and in college, to where he's just consistently making plays. And for Ward, some of that has come back on some injury stuff, and maybe that's why Booth has had some injury history as well. But right. I think most organizations are going to take a little bit, like maybe missing a game or two a season for being almost in all aspects a shutdown corner, because you're good in the man coverage, but you also come up and make plays on the outside if it comes that way. So screens are going to get blown up, and he's just a good corner.
Yeah, I echo that. All right, my 2, your 2, the first one we've agreed on yet.
Yes.
Yeah. So we both agree that Derek Stingley is CB2. So talk to me about Derek Stingley.
So injury history and consistency concerns. Let's get that out of the way. He has, for me, a -1 for injury history and -1 for inconsistent play and peaking early, possibly. I think the tape over the last 2 years, where we don't have 2 years of tape, is a little lacking. But he tested as a really good athlete, 9.2 on the RAS. Just literally, and he's an above average tackler. I have him as a 7.5. A little bit better than Sauce, a little bit better than Gordon. Not as good as the other 3 top guys we talked about here, but he's consistent in that aspect, and he's a willing tackler. There's just obviously some deficiencies as a corner at that aspect. And I thought of times this last 2 years, he wasn't as aggressive in tackling because of the injuries. I think he was trying to play it safe a bit. But what separates Stingley from most people is the technique and the press man coverage. Just plain and simple. He's the best man cover corner for me in the class. I don't know how you can watch 2019 and not say that. Where maybe we haven't seen that as much since then. I'm not sure he's faced as good a receiver since then either. Obviously, his worst tape, I think everyone will agree, is 2020 against Bama against Devonta Smith. But literally, besides that game, it's hard to watch a bad game from him. There's some deficiencies. Obviously, the last 2 years,
some mediocre games,
mediocre,
not bad, but
so basically, man coverage. He's a technician. He shows the absolute ability to mirror wide receivers from the line of scrimmage with press, and just plays with good patience in man, and just stays with them. I think he stays a step ahead most of the time as well. He shoots his hands really good. His feet are always moving. Good eye discipline on these man coverage plays. So just overall, incredible man coverage corner. And you see those instincts in zone. He trusts his eyes and reading the quarterback probably a little too much at times. He's a very, very smart player at the position. So he does a good job of leveraging and attacking the stems of the receivers. But again, he's good as his own coverage corner. But I think he plays on the instincts and tries to make the big play more than he should at times in the zone. Shows really good ball skills. Really, he can win the 50-50 balls at a high level. I have him as tied as the best ball skills corner of the class. He's very physical, as we already talked about. And honestly, literally the concerns of Derek Stingley Jr. is consistency and injury. And I think injury speaks to consistency, and consistency speaks to injury. So really, we have an injury concern with Derek Stingley Jr. All the medical so far has told us he's perfectly fine, and he will be perfectly fine. So while I will ding him for that, I think the rest of it speaks for itself. And basically, if worst case, we only get back to that 2019 tape, he's going to be an easy first round lock, first of all, and one of the better half of the quarters in the league. Easy.
Yeah, which I feel like is entirely reasonable. I've heard some stories about LSU over the last 2 years, and that's kind of why his play has suffered. I've heard some stories that I can't necessarily share either. So LSU's program was in bad shape, probably still is for what it's worth. But yeah, I don't have too many qualms about Derek Stingley. I echo everything you said. Fantastic player, should be drafted in the top 15, will be drafted in the top 15. I don't expect that he will get past Minnesota is where I think I will have him mocked. And I don't know that he gets all the way there either.
If Derek Stingley never got hurt, he would be a top 5 pick. I don't think there's any question there. Just because of what we've seen on tape, regardless. And we'd be who's going first, Kyle Hamilton or Derek Stingley Jr.? I think we were robbed of that, but I think there's a good chance they probably go back to back. There's a very good chance that happens, and we'll be talking about that forever, just like we're probably gonna always talk about Tua versus Herbert for that. And we could have Mariota versus Winston, I guess, but Robert Griffin, Andrew Luck, those are all quarterbacks, but it's still the comparison who went first. Normally, whoever went first is it's been up or down, I guess. I can't say normally. So we'll see what happens, but I think both are fantastic players. I don't think any of these top 3 corners, or top 4, I guess, for both of us, you're going to go wrong with taking in the first round. I just have McDuffie as a second-round player, but I get why he's going in the first.
Just some guys that you probably thought you would hear and you didn't. Kaiir Elam, just a wildly inconsistent player that needs to develop, but uber athlete, think that he's going to be a successful player at the NFL level. I'm obsessed with Alante Taylor. I don't get why this guy's kind of being mocked as a day 3 guy.
Because he is. Oh, shit.
Stop it. Did you grade him?
Yeah. Alante Taylor, day 3.
All right. Well, that's wild. I have him as I think, 3rd-round player.
You have he might be a 3rd-round player for me too. I'm not even fully sure on that. I think he probably is.
And then Tariq Woolen, you shouldn't have heard him. He's not good. Uh,
He's an athletic freak that
yeah,
that has the traits to develop at the next level, but he's a fifth year senior that hasn't yet. Um, so yeah,
I wouldn't be drafting him. So, any
uh,
other guys you want to mention?
yeah, Kobe Bryant graded significantly higher for me than he's going. He's a third round player for me. I think Martin Emerson deserves a lot of talks on day two as well. Very, very talented. Who I didn't get to finish. I think Jack Jones has shown some stuff that I like. Jalen Armour Davis is an athletic freak as well, so good things there. Um, who Zion McCollum, I didn't get to finish. Obviously, athletic freak, scoring a 10 in the RAS. I think we'd see a lot of the same stuff with Tariq Woolen. I think
Yeah.
if we had the grades, but Zion's being a round 3, round 4 guy, and McCollum and Woolen has been talked about on day 2 a lot, where it's like,
And even back of round 1, I've seen in a month,
it's
which is
ridiculous. But
disgusting.
those are the guys to shout out at the position. Corner is relatively deep, but there's no top guy necessarily. It's very, very close for the first 6 or 7, and then it's a drop down, but then it's very, very close for the next 5. So
Yeah.
my
All
opinion.
right, we need to get to safeties before we run out of time. So the good thing is that our 5 are exactly identical. So
Yes.
we'll go 5-1 and just talk about those as well. Probably zip through them. We do have all of even our grading is the same, except Lewis Scene is a little bit different, maybe. Okay, safety 5 for both of us. Jaquan Brisker. My quick notes on Brisker is that I think that he's the best 2 high safety in this class. Kyle Hamilton, we'll talk about him in a second. He doesn't count for any of this discussion because he's the best 2 high, he's the best single high, he's the best box. It doesn't matter. But Jaquan Brisker, best, probably strong safety in the class, in my opinion. Good athlete. Not great in man coverage at this point, but really, really good sitting in the zone. I think he can play cover 3. I think that instinctually he's not quite there yet, but I also think that he is okay in that area. Ball skills are some of the best. Good range, not great. Good burst, not great. He does a lot of things good, not great, but that's worthy of a second round pick because I think that you bet on that athleticism and just being sticky in zone coverage, not really sticky, but good in zone coverage. And I'm pretty comfortable with that. What do you think of Brisker?
He is really good in zone coverage.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's a fantastic athlete as well. Pretty good tackler, 7.5 out of 10. Among the better ball skills of the safety class as well. So I think overall he's just a phenomenal athlete as well as being a good player. And he excels at a couple things. Does he need to continue to develop? Yes. He's a second round player for me. I think he's a starting free safety. I think he could be interchangeable in the safety roles, but I think he should be multiple coverage, have blitz packages, always on the field to nickel, moving around. I just really like his tape. Plain simple.
It's interesting that we think he's really good in 2 high. In 2 high zones specifically, because I think he'd be the perfect third safety for the Packers because I think they like to use a third safety. That's my favorite fit for Brisker. So, all right, our safety 4 is Jalen Petri, the 5th-year senior out of Baylor, who kind of saw his stock rise pretty drastically as Baylor was very good at football, and then Petri went to the Senior Bowl and absolutely showed out in all different aspects. What do you think of Petri, Randy?
Yeah, I think first of all, his tape for me, I have him as a better zone coverage safety than man coverage. But we saw a lot of growth in the man coverage department at the Senior Bowl. He rotated into the cornerback drills and played one-on-one as more of like a slot guy, and I think he showed a lot of growth in that area, so that's good. And I think that specifically for me is going to put him a little bit ahead of Brisker. He's one of the better tacklers of the safety class, so that's going to put him up top as well. Shows good instincts. Uh, he has good burst and range, but he needs better ball skills to be like that pure like. Because I think he's probably better as like a rotational, varying scheme, where he's like a strong safety, where he's really impacting the run game, but he can also work as like a rotational, like nickel corner and stuff at different times. But I would also like him really in like a cover 3 scheme where like his best zones are like that hook curl range to where he can continue to attack inside and read and react. So we're going to see if that works. But his best traits for me are tackling and run support. So I think he's clearly a strong safety that should be playing in the box and move around. But I think he could play both roles at times because he's relatively good in zone. So he just needs to get a little bit better here and there with ball skills and a little bit read and react at times. But
Yeah.
he's good.
So I had someone tell me that he is better in man coverage than the guy we're about to talk about. And what I want to say to that is, PFF graded it that way, and PFF does a lot of really good things well, but PFF is not the gospel when it comes to grading. And so I think remembering that when you're talking about these prospects, in no way, shape, or form is Jalen Petri a better man coverage player than Daxton Hill, in my opinion.
So on tape, Daxton Hill is better. I don't think you could say
Right.
that. I do have them as the same man coverage grade, but
Yeah.
that's projecting Petrie a little bit after the Senior Bowl where we saw him kind of dominate in it. I
Right.
will say there wasn't great wide receivers there though, so maybe I'm giving him a bit too much credit there.
Right.
But there are some deficiencies in Daxton Hill's man coverage, but
For
they're
sure.
not the same deficiencies. Like it's a little bit different how he plays.
Right.
Might as well just get right into him, and I'll let you kind of take over on that. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So Daxton Hill, the junior Michigan safety, another super athlete, over a 9 RAS. Um, Daxton Hill's interesting because Michigan used him the way they like to use their safeties, and that is he was often in the slot. He was actually strictly a slot corner at times throughout the year, where he would play every single snap as a slot corner. Um, whether or not he was in press, sometimes he was playing off coverage and they were running zone, so he was kind of doing safety things. But in my opinion, Daxton Hill has the most fluid hips in man coverage of the guys that we're talking about. Now, do I think that he kind of lacks a little bit instinctually compared to at least the last few? Like, I think Petrie's more instinctual. I think the next two that we'll talk about are also more instinctual. Yes, I also think that his ball skills for someone who is often in coverage are lacking a bit. I think that that's actually his worst trait, that and tackling. But I think that you you find solace in the fact that he can flip his hips, he can stick to someone, and that you can't say that about every safety in the class. And so that's what kind of bumped him up. I was initially really low on Daxton Hill, and then I watched another game, and then I watched another game, and I was like, okay, I get it. Still a second round player for me. Not gonna really be worthy of a first round pick. Although I'm hearing now that he
Close.
may be slipping out of the first round in some spheres, but wouldn't be shocked to see him go. Wouldn't be shocked to see him as the third safety off the board. Do you kind of agree on Dax here?
Yeah, I have him as a good run support safety because I think he attacks it well, but he is not a great tackler. So
Right.
he's above average. Like it's not like a ultra deficiency. He's not the worst of the guys I have graded, but like Petrie's clearly better in the run game. Um, but what we've seen from him as moving around is what we're kind of projecting Petrie to be after the Senior Bowl, and just what we've seen with him as a pure like athlete and safety. We're projecting him to be able to move around and play nickel safety, nickel corner, play a bunch of different positions. But I think of Petrie as more of a strong safety in the box type of guy, whereas Daxton Hill I have as more of a free safety because I think it helps the deficiencies in this game, especially in the run game, to allow him to play free safety and play a nickel and more of like a cover one, cover three, cover two type, like just pure coverage. Because I do have him as one of the better zone coverage corners. It's just he wasn't always doing that. So like it's just the reps that I saw I thought really good. And at the next level with all good receivers, I think he might struggle in some of the man coverage concepts we talked about there. He didn't do like a fantastic job against Ohio State, but he didn't do bad by any means. And really, the offensive parts of the Big Ten, everyone's looking on how you play against Ohio State. It's pretty much it because they're above and beyond everything else.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I was just talking with Damian Parson from TDN about, he said it's not even fair that Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are opposite of each other. I said, yeah, and Jackson Smith and Jigbo was in the slot, man. And like Ohio State's ridiculous. And Dax did a pretty good job against them, I would say. Pretty good.
Yeah, he did. Like, there's no question he made an impact on the game. I just think consistency-wise right now, like he can't be a slot corner, but he can be a rotational nickel corner. So like, well, right. Like I do agree that he's got better hips than most of the safeties and everything.
Yeah,
he basically has the hips of a corner, but he doesn't have the technique of a corner. It's the best way I can put it.
Well,
in man specifically.
I was going to say, or the instincts of a safety too. So yeah, I think you add
and he's
that
got as well. He's got relatively good instincts by all aspects. It's just again, I don't see good instincts in man. I see good instincts in zone for him, and it's like we don't get to see it as much, or it's not where we see the best plays from him. So he's a weird eval, but I think fine as anyone's safety 3 or 4 is good with me. Like if you have Petri or Brisker ahead of him, I get it, especially with like Petrie's like aptitude in the run game. I get why you put him a little higher, but I have them very, very fucking close. as well as the next guy.
Yeah. So the next guy we'll jump into because we're running out of time. It's embarrassing. Shut up. So Lewis Cine, the safety out of Georgia, 6', 200, was part of the fantastic Georgia defense that we have spoken so much about during this year. And we'll get to do this again next draft cycle. I'll tell you what, because they've got some dudes. As always, they always have dudes. But Lewis Cine, again, incredible athlete. We talk about that a lot. It kind of matters, it matters for draft capital. A lot of teams have a threshold. Lewis Cine is hitting all the thresholds, somewhere in the 9.9 range. I didn't update it. Is that what you have for him too?
9.92.
Yeah. So I have a 9.9. I'll edit that up. But Lewis Cine is interesting to me because he is as much a downhill safety as anyone in this class. He is a hard hitting dude. He can knock running backs like Brian Robinson back. And ultimately, he's still developing in coverage, but because he is so good instinctually, he's almost there. He's almost there. And especially in zone coverage, I don't think you're ever really going to want to stick him in man against slot receivers. I think,
but he does. But he played slot too. Like he's a weird player. Like again, it's another weird info. Like I think he's way better in zone, but he played well at times in slot. But I still wouldn't trust him in man coverage, like you said.
Yeah, and ultimately, like you see some of the lapses in his play in that, like he can get caught in no man's land, but he's still developing and he's already so freaking good. This is a top 20 pick in my opinion. I might not have him graded as such, but super rangy, super bursty. Recovery speed is fantastic. We talk about click and close with corners. His click and close as a safety on top of his you're not really beating him deep. He is fast as shit, and he's going to get there. So he's a player I love. I think him to the Eagles is one of my favorite picks to make in mock drafts at this point.
Yeah, he's going to be a fun person that we see like paired with at a safety position, because I do think he is good on the back end. And like ideally, I think day one he probably becomes like the team's gunner as well. Like he's going to absolutely dominate on special teams if he plays him. But I do have him as pretty much any defensive scheme, but I think he could play a little bit of both. But how dominant he is in the run game, I think he should transition to be more of a strong safety and playing inside the box a little bit more, because honestly, he's among the best of the run support. I have him tied for the best tackler of this safety class. I mean, he plays a run like a linebacker. He's violent.
Yeah, he hits hard. I would not want to get hit by him. I could say that about all these guys, though, for what it's worth.
Well, it's fair.
All right, let's talk about safety one, and just do you have another thing?
I was going to say, so I have him as high second in the grade, because he's a 77.92 for me. So he is literally the in between where we have a lapse of grade because we didn't do partials before. So he's basically a first round grade for me. So I think he goes day one, in my opinion. Yeah. I'm not sure if Eagles necessarily, now that they only have 2 picks, but we'll see. If he doesn't go day one, he's going the first pick to the Lions, Jaguars. Right? Or the Jaguars, right? Like, or Lions.
Jaguars or Lions, yeah.
Like, there's no way he gets past 34.
No, I agree. But I think he's a top 20 player. I think someone's going to take him in that range. Maybe not top. Yeah, he won't get past the Bucs, in my opinion, because they like adding more safeties. But
the Bucs need it, honestly.
They do after Winfield. We're running out of time. We need to talk about Kyle Hamilton, because he's a top 10 player in this class. He's a top 10. Well, he's a top 5 player in this class. He's a top 10 player grade-wise for both of us, which we haven't gotten to talk about any of these this year. So our scale, generational, top 5, top 10, 1st through 7th, priority free agent, XFL/USFL bound. That's our last category. We don't necessarily talk about those players a whole lot, but Kyle Hamilton falls inside the top 10 range, which is an 84 to an 88.9 technically. Once we update
4.5, we really haven't discussed that, but either way, it's fine. He didn't go above that for either of us.
Yeah. So Kyle Hamilton, super athlete. Again, another super athlete, despite running a slow 40. That 40 doesn't matter when you're running sideways, guys. His game speed is crazy. Just incredible in man coverage, incredible in zone coverage. There's really, I do think that he showed some lapses in zone coverage, but when you see him run from the opposite hash to make a play on the sideline, an incredible play at that, you just wipe that away and you say, yep, doesn't matter. He is as instinctual as anyone I've watched at the safety position over the last few years. Randy, what do you think of Kyle Hamilton? I don't even know if I touched on his best traits.
You technically didn't.
Right?
But you just did. So his best trait is range. Plain and simple. But he has elite burst. He is elite in the run game too. So he is what you want from a safety, to where he plays in the back end. He plays literally all over. So the comparison level of the Derwin James and the Minkah Fitzpatrick is fair, because he is your star. He plays wherever the defense dictates to where he's at. I have it as the most instinctual safety of the class as well. And I think you see it on plays like you just talked about. He literally makes the jaw-dropping Ed Reed plays. And I do not say that lightly by any fucking means, because Ed Reed is the best safety I've ever seen in my fucking life. Probably the best safety I'll ever see in my life. But he makes some of the plays that Ed Reed could. He makes some of the plays that Polamalu could in the run game, or Minkah does now in the run game, or in the intermediate with the passing game. Like, he's got some stuff to develop still, to get to that level. But that's the projection for a reason because he's got the best ball skills of the class too. Like he is just by far and away not touchable by the rest of these safeties, and that is not their fault by any means. He would be the best safety in any class, in my opinion, that we have like the view of for the recent future. Like if you wait another year, he'd be the best safety there.
Yeah.
He's a top 10 pick in any class for a reason. There's a reason we have that grade scale. It's for special talent like this.
Now, with that being said, do you think the NFL drafts it that way? Do you think he falls out of the top 10?
I think he could fall out of the top 10, but he shouldn't. Like, and if he falls out of the top 10, ain't no fucking way in hell he gets past. Like, because if he falls outside the top 10, you're assuming that means 3 to 4 tackles have gone, 3 to 4 edges have gone, 1 to 2 quarterbacks have gone, 1 to 2 receivers have gone, and we're getting rid of some of this top talent, and you're looking at 11 with Washington. Let's say Drake London and Garrett Wilson are gone. Are they picking Jameson? Are they picking Chris Olave? Are they picking Treylon? Or are they picking the best goddamn safety, Kyle Hamilton, that they need help at? It's a very tough call. I think the Vikings have the same exact question, to where they have big holes as well, especially at corner, and they want to get a corner to have them learn from Patrick Peterson. But do you pick Kyle Hamilton to have him learn from Harrison Smith? I think that's a very fucking smart call. And there's absolutely no way, in my opinion, he should get past the Texans at 13, because I think rightfully so, the Texans should be considering him at 3. Just like the Lions should be considering him at 2, and the Jaguars should consider him at 1. They won't take him there, and I do not blame them. But they need safety badly. And they have 1 good edge, 1 developmental edge. They're taking edge or they're taking offensive line. I get that. They very well should. But and I don't have Kyle Hamilton graded as the best player. I'll say that. The edges did beat him out. But it's because of, and I think it's just positional stuff there as well, and what we look for in the positions, to where we look for the man and zone coverage for safeties because it's so important. But a lot of the times they're playing both at sometimes. It's weird, especially with Kyle Hamilton, where he's clearly in the zone, but he ends up taking man at times because he just knows the ball's going there. That's the only person around, so he's taking them. If we just did coverage in general, I think he'd grade slightly better, and we had like some other thing to do, but we don't. So I think it's where he's a little bit lacking in that regard. But like he literally has, he has an 8 for man coverage, 8.5 for zone for me, and 8.5 for ball skills, and everything else is 9, 9.5, or 10.
Yeah, he's fantastic, man. His floor is 13, like you said, and I think realistically his floor is probably 11, because I don't think Washington lets him get by them. So, but that will do it. Are there any other safeties you want to mention? Just literally their name. That's all we have time for.
Okay, so we both like Nick Cross as a developmental athletic freak of a safety. I think Brian Cook grades relatively well. Smoke Monday and Bubba Bolden are really good, and Brian Cook for that regard are really good day 3 prospects that I think can have a massive impact as a 3rd or 4th round graded guy for me. I'm pretty sure all 4th round, but just give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they're all relatively good. And that's about it. This is a weird safety class. I mean, but yeah.
I wanted to mention Kirby Joseph, I think, is high up on people's boards.
So Kyle Hamilton's gone that early, like we said. I think Scene through Brisker all gone early in day 2. And then the
by
rest,
top 50.
Yeah, I think Cross will be kind of shot up in the 3rd round somewhere, and then we're going to get Brian Cook shot up, and the other guy. It's people are going to be taking shots at safety after the top 50. That's the weird part of this class, and that's why those guys are going to get tossed at the board.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that will do it for this episode of The Cut. Make sure you like, subscribe, do whatever the things you do. Do those. We'll be back for the Friday fix. Remember, we'll also be back next week for the Mega Mock and the NFL Draft. It's draft season. It's winding down. Randy, anything else to add?
No, let's go.
All right. For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We'll talk to you guys on Friday. Later.